Hello, luminaries. Welcome to Pisces season. We have our Pisces new moon coming right up. Listen all about it.
Welcome to Star Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii born Filipino Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be.
I'm really relieved about this Pisces season. It's been so many ups and downs here in my little world of Leslie Tagorda. The last few weeks, I've still been kind of swimming in like the ups and downs of grief. And then my Quinteto Latino, we finally went back on tour, like our very first tour. We used to tour so much before the pandemic. And we got to tour to Virginia, which was super exciting. I absolutely love going on tour and teaching people about Latin American music and classical music, and how we like weave our values into classical music. But it's like everything else, it's like just like blinders. There's nothing else that can happen while I'm on tour. And then I get home, my son has broken his hand, my husband got COVID. It was my birthday and like didn't do anything for my birthday because my husband had COVID. It was just like all the things. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And I finally feel like some of like that heaviness is lifting now that we are approaching Pisces season, now that Saturn is, approaching those last degrees of Aquarius, getting ready to move into Pisces in March, and Pluto, of course, sitting right on that last degree of Capricorn, getting ready to move into Aquarius. We have a lot of big things happening in March. So, the first kind of foray into like setting the stage for March, of course, is our Pisces new moon. Pisces new moon happens on February 19th at 11:05 p.m. Pacific. And so, for most of us in the world, actually, this Pisces new moon is going to be happening on February 20th, on Monday, President's Day in the United States, at Eastern Time, 2:05 a.m. So I want to share all about this Pisces new moon because it just feels really wonderful. I've been super grooving into Pisces lately and have found this like new appreciation for Pisces recently that I didn't always have. So I can't wait to share about this Pisces new moon. But woe is me, right? First world problems. I'm super grateful for everything that I have and everything that I get to do and all of my privileges. I just want to preface that I understand my complaining and stuff. There are people that have it way worse in the world. But really, this kind of like the heaviness that I feel just really comes from inside, not really being able to do the things that bring me the most joy. And the things that bring me the most joy is creating astrology content and sharing and teaching the wisdom of astrology so that we can live with more intention and ease and impact. And so part of this last week coming back to life was really creating this content. There's just been so much content on my plate that I have to create, in addition to kind of these like new moon mini readings that I do for my mentorship level folks in Star Powered Circle. I'm doing like 20 new moon mini readings every single month. And I absolutely love it because as I'm going through each of everybody's new moons, I'm spending, 5 to 10 minutes doing these like channeled mini readings based on their astrology. So much more wisdom of Pisces and that new moon starts to come through. It's really amazing to see patterns emerge month after month after month. I just get to deepen my experience and understanding of these different archetypes and the planets when I get to do all of these readings all at once. It's just such a joy. And then on top of the new moon readings that I've been doing, I've been also fleshing out the curriculum for my upcoming celestial cycles. I've been sharing, I think, some of the earlier podcasts from, I think, the end of end of 2022 and earlier this year, I was really sharing about like why celestial cycles are so important, meaning just kind of the cycles as the planets move through our natal chart, which is a little bit different than just the zodiacal seasons that we all get to experience here on planet Earth. Because when we look at our natal chart, it looks exactly like a clock face with 12 different markers for different houses, just like the 12 hours in a day, or half a day rather, as it turns the cycle twice in a 24-hour period. And each of the planets have their own velocity. They move at different tempos. And as each of the planets move through the different houses that are set to your unique seasons and timing, because all of us have different rising signs, even by degree and house division and things like that, we can really track even simple things like the sun going through each of our houses. And if the sun represents our solar consciousness or our creative source or our superpowers or just that natural talent, as the transiting sun moves through our natal chart, we can see what areas of our life light up and have most access to this creative source as we simply watch the sun go by. Just absolutely looking at the sun and knowing those seasons that are specific to us, I've seen it change my clients' lives with just like that permission. Like, why is it that every December I am so tired and don't want to do anything? And giving permission to that one client, it's like, well, you know what? The sun is going through your fourth house at that time. Of course, you want to hibernate and stay at home. Like, yeah, welcome in people and bring people over to your house, but you certainly don't want to do anything. And hearing that recognition and that validation from people going, oh, no wonder I'm always wanting to just be at home and buy new sheets at that time. It's so beautiful just to have that recognition when working with our celestial cycles. So this last week, I've been super excited about fleshing out that curriculum. Week one, we'll be looking at just the sun cycles and how it determines our seasons over the course of a year. For the moon cycles, we'll be deepening our understandings of different transits and different phases and looking at the moods, because the moon is, it's just like whipping through the zodiac once every 29 days. Then we'll be looking at those inner planets to also understand those retrogrades and what we get to like redo, and how the inner planets have these kind of funny little orbits through our natal chart from our position here on Earth that allow us to reintegrate certain themes in our life at certain times of year. Really looking forward to that. And then on the fourth week, then we'll be looking at the outer planets and how this shows us the larger seasons and cycles in our lives, like the 12-year cycles of Jupiter, the 30-year cycles of Saturn. There are so many people who are having Saturn returns right now, the first Saturn returns and their second Saturn returns for all those late degree Aquarius Saturns, as well as the early degree Pisces Saturns. I hear you. I feel you. There are a lot of listeners out there that have that unique combination. And then looking even beyond Saturn's success, like 30-year success cycle, all the way through, the Uranus, the midlife cycles, Neptune, and Pluto. And so I'm really excited to share within my community about these celestial cycles, because what I realize is that astrology is so wonderful at looking at all the timing. And I always envision like this giant clock that has all of the 12 different hands with all of these different planets. And as they're circling, and just having the validation that you're really at the right time and the right place for all of these different shifts to happen. It feels so freeing and liberating, as well as working with ease and impact, because of course astrology love to use it for that inner awakening, but also how can we maximize our outward expression and leadership in our change making work. So I'm very excited to deliver celestial cycles in March, and that's been keeping me more than busy developing curriculum. Now, if you're not already in Star Powered Circle, I'm sorry to say you won't have access to celestial cycles live, But we'll be opening the doors for Star Powered Circle again right around equinox. And celestial cycles will be in the astro library. And in Gemini season, at the end of quarter 2, is when I'll be delivering Star Powered Voice, how to find your unique voice and brand messaging using your star powers. And so that's coming up. I'll have the wait list. Actually, the wait list is open right now. So if you don't want to forget and you want to join in that wait list to join in for quarter 2 to get celestial cycles in your library and participate in Star Powered Voice live during Gemini season, then head on over to starpowered.com/waitlist. So you'll be the first to know, and do that before you forget, because I know that I'm definitely one of those people that forget, and I'm practicing, still practicing, not over sending emails to remind you. If you know, you know. So just sign up for the wait list and you don't have to worry about it anymore. So let's dive in to this Pisces new moon, because this Pisces new moon is just, it's so wonderful. I've really been looking towards this Pisces new moon. The chart of the Pisces new moon is really, really funny. Let's see, let me see if I can bring this up. Yeah, hold on a second. So if you're watching this on video, you can see that I've shared the chart for the Pisces new moon. Again, happens on February 19th, 11:05 p.m. Pacific. February 20th at 2:05 a.m. Eastern. And if you're looking at the chart, know that I cast this chart from San Francisco. So the house divisions might look a little bit different to you. What we're really looking at is the combination of the astrological aspects that are happening at this exact new moon. The most important thing that you might want to that you might notice in this chart is that the new moon at Pisces of 1 degree has an out of sign conjunction with Saturn that is at 28 degrees of Aquarius. So, regardless of astro lingo, just know that the sun, moon, and Saturn are in really tight aspect. So creating new beginnings for this Pisces energy, and yet Saturn there putting boundaries on it. But like, really, honestly, how can you create boundaries on something so expansive and so vast as Pisces? So I called this new moon in Pisces magic for pragmatists. Meaning that we are fully supported by spirit, by our intuition, by our spirit guides, by universal oneness. That's what I'm calling magic. But for practical reasons, for getting things done in this earthly world, hence the pragmatists. And that comes from Saturn's. So you already know that a new moon is a time of new beginnings. And because we have Saturn, it's a time for committing to your spiritual revolution and interconnected success. Pisces, Saturn, Pisces, Saturn. So this new moon coupled with Saturn sharing space at this early Pisces degree requests a fresh, crystal clear pledge to your practical magic. Now, practical magic is the spiritual and emotional tools you harness to accomplish the goals that matter to you. Remember, Saturn is no longer about duty. It's a matter about accountability to the things that you want in your life. If you are less woo, which probably not because you're listening to this podcast, and more of a pragmatist, this might mean leaning on soft creativity like art and music or poetry to move the needle forward. Also, another thing that I want to push into there is, or add into there, is self-compassion, because regardless, this new moon, you are being asked to make a promise. That's Saturn's way of commitment and accountability to your practice of self-compassion, empathy, and the feeling of universal love in both your inner awakening and your outward leadership. Self compassion. Recently, lately, I've been just letting things come to me, like book recommendations or pieces of content. And I've just kind of been following the signs and following my bliss. And I've been really listening a lot to the work of Kristen Neff lately, who's been writing a lot of things about self compassion. And she really shares this idea of where we think about the confidence that we and the courage that we need to show up as a leader and to do all the risky things that it means to be a change maker, an entrepreneur, right? It's not about self esteem. And so, as a trained clinical psychologist, I believe that's what Kristen Neff's background is. I think she has like a PhD in something. She was just talking about the harm that self esteem does, right? We think about self esteem that might be equated with Aries and Mars, but that self compassion piece, which is much more Neptunian and Piscean. And, Venus is in Pisces right now, that where she's totally exalted. This softness of self compassion actually brings us so much further because it chips away at that perfectionism that we grow with, that self esteem, like needing to be a certain thing instead of giving ourselves permission and forgiveness when we're anything but perfect. And so, this promise to our own self compassion and self empathy, I understand that is a huge task for most of us because like oftentimes we are so much easier to offer compassion and empathy towards others versus towards ourselves. So for this Pisces new moon, this is the energy that you'll want to create and cultivate to connect at a soul level to reach your highest possibilities. Now, you've reached your highest potential when life and work is easy, fluid, blissful, despite the everyday obstacles that are always there. Remember at the top of the show, I was sharing about all of the things that have been going on in my life, just kind of the chaos that is surrounding us. And we like to think that, oh, like once my son's hands healed, or once like my husband is done with COVID, or once I'm over my grief, or once I'm over some kind of obstacle, that things will be hunky dory. But you know what? Those obstacles keep on coming. And so we have to remember that we have to find that inner sense of peace and bliss and joy that comes from Pisces. At the same time of this new moon, Pluto, of course, is at that very last degree of Capricorn, like I mentioned earlier, having almost completed his job of tearing down the oppressive institutionalized systems that had embedded themselves in our mindsets, our collective mindsets, and individually, just like the maybe colonial mentality or this understanding of needing to hustle, those kinds of mindsets that are really really toxic. Venus and Neptune in Pisces, with a touch of their magical empathy and interconnectivity, is able to dissolve the shackles and shame of fear once and for all. So we now all have this grace and lightness to rise above and see completely new possibilities wrapped in universal love, grace, and magic this new moon. Can you see why I'm so excited about this shift in energy? So, if we think back to this last new moon in Aquarius back in January, that new moon, the sun and moon were joined up with Pluto. I hope you had those breakthroughs in claiming what you desire for yourself. Now, the luminaries, also known as the lights, the sun and the moon, cozy up with Saturn, reminding you that only you can commit to what you want. So, for this Pisces new moon, I want you to create a pledge, a promise to your intuitive Piscean gifts, your practical magic, and your pragmatic self compassion. So, I want to kind of break down a little bit of the astrology of this new moon and just kind of some of the learnings that I picked up while going through 20 new moon mini readings. When I was thinking about just like the Saturn and it being cozied up to this Pisces, so Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn is home at Aquarius so that it can like break all the rules that it had created. And Saturn is a taskmaster, right? But Saturn is a taskmaster because ultimately, Saturn wants you to succeed. It wants you to achieve. It wants you to reach your highest goals. It wants you to master and commit to the things that are important to you. And oftentimes we talk about Saturn as having boundaries or creating structures on which we can grow. And when you think of this Saturn in Aquarius being next to this Pisces new moon, there's no way you can contain Piscean energy. Like, how can you like contain a nebula where stars are being born? How can you contain universal love or unity? You can't. So, when you're thinking about committing and mastering this Pisces energy for your new moon, what I've discovered is that Saturn wants you to simplify. That is the way that in Piscean ways that we can focus and crystallize and center that energy is by simplifying. If Pisces is ultimately about ease and flow, and Pisces kind of has this bad rap because sometimes we think about it as like psychoses or addiction, and all of that comes from this avoidance of being too sensitive. Really, what Pisces wants us to do is to retreat and to surrender into this place of going with the flow and being on top of that wonderful river of infinite possibilities. And so with Saturn there for this new moon, Saturn is saying, okay, we got to simplify, right? You want all of these wonderful things to be in ease and flow, but with Saturn there creating mastery and adding boundaries, it's saying, how can we make this easier? How can we simplify this? And the way to simplify this is to get rid of all the things that are overcomplicating things. So, as I talk about this astrology, I really invite you to take what you need, leave the rest, and trust your intuition in terms of what you want to plant in this Pisces new moon. So, new moon with Saturn, how can you simplify to create freedom and flow? Again, Saturnian keywords: boundaries, commitments, promise, responsibility, achievement, accountability, mastery, right? But next to Pisces, like I said, we cannot create a boundary. So, how can we simplify so that we can focus? And then Pisces keywords, you already know. And go ahead and I invite you to listen to that Pisces archetype episode if you haven't already. But those Pisces keywords of spirituality, sensitivity, unity, omnipotence, compassion, soul, dream, love. When I think about Pisces, last night I watched Raya and the Last Dragon with my son. And if you haven't already watched that movie, like, please do. It's just like such a beautiful movie. But these dragons, when they're like with the kind of their fog and everything, they're like hopping around in all these like rainbow filled clouds. And to me, that is Pisces, just like the epitome of Pisces. And you can't contain that, right? And so, how do you focus into that? Now, this is an interesting aspect that the new moon is also making. So, moon and sun are in quintile with revolutionary Uranus. And so they are asking, what is the highest potential you want to tap into with your innovative change making revolution? So, when we think about a quintile, and I don't talk about quintiles often because quintiles, not because quintiles are quote unquote Ptolemaic aspects. Thank you. Ptolemaic aspects. Some people call them minor aspects, but really there are no aspects that are minor. So, non Ptolemaic aspects, the quintile is similar to the word quintessential. When you can think about a quintile, the combination between planets is that kind of je ne sais quoi, that talent that you can't exactly describe or know where it came from, that star power, that magic, that artistic genius. And so many beautiful artists and celebrities, you'll see many, many, many quintiles in their charts. And so this new moon is quintiling Uranus. And Uranus's keywords are, of course, change, revolution, quantum leap, leaps, electrical shocks and breakthroughs and innovation and freedom and genius. And so there's a little bit of magic, innovative magic and quantum leaps. So even though your intention can be simple, don't hold yourself back from deciding that you're going to quantum leap into some like fantastic future. If you can dream it, you can become it. So take yourself there and take that risk and decide that you're going to jump through this magical wormhole to get where you want to be with your new moon intention. And so we already talked about Venus and Neptune. They're still in the sky, reminding you how interconnected, how part of the cosmic constellation you are part of. And Pluto still holding on to that last degree of Capricorn, saying, what can you put aside all of those systems of oppression and shame that still need to be unearthed? Like, how can you put them aside, work through them so that you can tap into all of the gifts that are waiting for you? So, my friends, that is what I have for this Pisces new moon. I'll be sharing on Instagram some of the house activations for your visionary work in your work and your business. So, if you want to take a look at the house activations, head on over to my Instagram account, and you'll see that dropped on Sunday. House by house, I'll show you where you can deepen and focus in your intentions based on where 1 degree of Pisces falls in your natal chart. All right, my friends, it feels really good to be coming back to full life. I so appreciate you and your patience. Have the most beautiful Pisces new moon. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.